And today we're going to talk about how to make the transition from salesperson to sales manager.
Welcome to the Master Dealmaker's Secrets podcast. And now, here's sales growth strategist, John Blake.
Welcome to Master Dealmaker's Secrets. I'm John Blake. This is episode 201. And today we're going to talk about how to make the transition from salesperson to sales manager. This is something that I have been encountering a lot in recent conversations with clients. So I thought I would share with you really the three most important things in that making that transition. And what's important is that not all people should make the transition from salesperson to sales manager. They think it will be easy, and it's actually not. So we're going to expand on that in more detail very shortly. But before we do that, if you have got leads, inquiries that you've spoken to that haven't converted into paying clients, I want you to head over to johnblakeaudio.com. What you will see there is a link where you can download a 15-minute training that walks you through exactly how to go about maximizing the number of people that you've spoken to, that you've sent a quote or a proposal to, and they haven't converted into a paying client. In my experience, most businesses have hundreds, if not thousands, if not millions, I'm not exaggerating, of people in the column in their CRM, in the proposal sent column, of unconverted quotes, proposals, fee estimates, whatever you want to call them. And if you use this strategy, you will double the amount of those that convert into actual paying clients. So what you'll get is a 15-minute audio that walks you through the strategy, but what you'll also get is a PDF that has the exact word-for-word scripts, exactly what to say when you call on the phone, exactly what to write in your emails, but most importantly, and this is the biggest question that I ever get, is when to call and when to email over a 90-day period. If you put this into practice, you will make more sales. The best thing about it is that you can teach it to somebody else in your team to do it on your behalf. It's very easy to do. Go grab it. It is 100% complimentary. Put it into practice and let me know how you go with it. Okay, so we're going to talk about how to transition from a salesperson to a sales manager. Now, this could be for you, like you might be thinking, so as a listener, you might be a salesperson, you're thinking that you want to go into sales management, or you might be a business owner and you've got a great salesperson and you want him to become a sales manager. You've grown your team to a certain point and you're thinking that your best salesperson is your most logical choice as to who should become your sales manager. Now, first thing to understand here is that being a sales manager is totally different to being a salesperson. And when I say that, what's important to understand is that the skill set, the personality traits, and the behaviors that a sales manager needs to use to do the job effectively are almost the antithesis as to what a great salesperson needs to do to be effective. So in particular, as a sales manager, suddenly you, or at least the ones that do it well, should be now focused on your team. As a salesperson, you don't need to do that. You just need to be 100% self-focused, self-reliant, and thinking about your own activity. Suddenly, as a sales manager, you've got to start thinking about all the other people on your team and what they're doing or what they're not doing and what they're doing well and what they could do better and whether they're on track or whether they're off track. And that is a big shift for a lot of salespeople. So the first thing that you need to understand is that it is going to be totally different. It's going to be totally different to what it is that you are used to as a salesperson, because as I said, as a salesperson, you're self-directed, you're self-motivated. Suddenly you've got to become other-directed and other focused and work out how to motivate other people. And probably the biggest mistake that I see salespeople make when they become a sales manager is that they try to communicate with the people everyone on their team in the same way. So they try to motivate them using the same approach that they would use on themselves, or that sometimes somebody might have used with them in the past, and it doesn't work. It really doesn't, and it's a trap, and it can create a lot of drama because not everybody is motivated to do things in the same way that you are motivated to do things. So people are motivated to act in different ways. So we'll expand on that in a minute. But so there are really three things, right? So you need to want to do it, right? So once you understand that it's going to be totally different, you need to want to do it. Because if you don't want to do it, if you just are suddenly made sales manager and you're not motivated to become that, it's going to create all sorts of drama. So number one, you need to want to do it, and we've talked about the differences. Number two, it's a whole other set of tools, and most salespeople that get promoted to sales manager have no awareness of what those tools are. So we could spend days and days. In fact, I've got a client that I'm working with on a 6-month transition of him being the client's top salesperson into a sales management role, and it's a 6-month transition. But the big rocks are your new set of tools will be meeting frameworks. So you need to have structured meeting frameworks. They will be group meeting frameworks, and they will be one-on-one meeting frameworks. You need to understand the timing, so how you're going to actually make it work from a timing perspective, and also the cadence. So how often are you going to be meeting with various people in your team? And a lot of that will come down to whether that person is on track or whether they're off track, whether they are new or whether they've been with the company for a while. So nutting that out as it relates to the context of your particular team is another massive part of that. So meeting frameworks are going to be part of your set of tools. You're going to need language frameworks. So you're going to need to be able to speak to people in your team in different ways to get the most out of them. And then you're also going to need to have an awareness of the different personalities and how to get the best out of each person. So that's the second part. So first part, just to recap, is you're going to need to want to do it. You're going to need to understand and be aware of the fact that it's going to be totally different to what it is that you've been doing up until this point. The second point is that you're going to need a whole different set of tools, and you're going to need to understand how to use them, when to use them, and how often to use them in terms of timing and the rhythms in which you are running group and one-on-one sessions. And then the third part is that you are going to need to know how to use those tools in the context of the three big areas that will underpin success in your sales team as a sales manager. So the first one is goal setting. The second one is praise. And the third one is course correction. So goal setting, there'll be team goals, there'll be one-on-one goals. In terms of praise, there will be how to deliver feedback. And there are two types of feedback. There are praising people for doing the right thing and for making progress. And how you praise somebody who's just starting is very different to how you praise somebody that's been with you for a while. And then the third part is course correction. So how do we deliver feedback to different personalities in a way that that person is going to be motivated by that as opposed to destroyed by that? So as I said, we could talk about this for days and days. One of the first things is to also look at the time that you've got available. So mapping out the time so that you've got the time to be able to spend the time that you need with each individual to get the best out of them, and also to make sure that you have got the big rocks in place. So how often are you meeting as a team? How often are you doing one-on-ones? And then look at the one-on-ones also in the context of performance. So you might do one-on-ones with everybody if none of your team are actually hitting their numbers, but you might not necessarily do one-on-ones with certain team members that are hitting their numbers on a consistent and regular basis. So there's all of these different things to consider But hopefully, just to recap, I've given you some sort of an insight as to what's happened in particular, or as to what needs to happen. In particular, they need to want to do it. Secondly, you need a whole set of new tools that you're going to need to be able to know how to use and when to use. And then the third one is that you need to understand how to use those tools really through three lenses: through the lens of goal setting, team goals, individual goals, praise. So how do you deliver praise to people who are doing the right thing? And then course correction, which is, how can you be a good captain coach and give your guys the feedback that they need to to continue to perform. So I hope that has been useful. As always, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will talk to you on the next podcast. Cheers.
You've been listening to Master Dealmaker Secrets with John Blake. Subscribe to get more in-depth strategies and maximize your sales process with new episodes every other week. And double your inquiry to sale conversion with the lead flow you already have. Go to johnblakeaudio.com for his exclusive, free, no fluff audio training and companion PDF guide.